So the first time I did the first mastermind that I set up, I didn't have any speakers, and I designed it and wrote the whole thing to be 8 hours long, and I just taught it all. Yeah.
When did you do your first mastermind?
The first mastermind I did was about 4 months ago, and I released it to just a small group of people. I just wanted to constantly tweak it till I made it better. So we just did it in this room. Actually, it only seats 25 people. You know, it was pretty full, but
How many masterminds have you done?
3. So the third one you came to, and that was in Corona, and so now we reached a little over 50, and that was for the first portion of the mastermind, the power to gain wealth, and then they get invited to the next one, but they pay into the next one, you know, to get all that rich stuff. So it cuts back a little bit. Some people don't pay into the next one.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've done 3. How often do you want to do them?
I want to do them every month. So I have the first one, which is the feeder. It gets them in, gets them interested. Everybody wants to know how to make money. They want to be able to do it, whether they're a W-2 worker or just want to do a side hustle. They want a good, reliable thing and a group of people, right? So that one's once a month. And then the second one is also, they want to go bigger. They just sign up for that one. Come on out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So what do they, I know that ours was kind of like, so I kind of came in and you were like, hey, be the real estate guy. So I came in and taught people about real estate. But what is your vision for the next one? Because I think you want to do one in Temecula, right?
Yes, we're doing one in Temecula. It's going to be April 6th, and we got 100 seats available. So it's going to go to 100. So each step, we just keep fine-tuning, making it better, because I want to bring powerful value. I want to answer the questions people are asking, and I want to make sure when they come in, they're like blown away, you know, at all the information and the pathways they could take to make great money.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. April 6th, that's my son's birthday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is my son's birthday.
Oh, man.
But we're celebrating his birthday on the 7th because he probably has baseball.
So
sometime on the 6th.
You can still speak.
Yeah, so I'll
no, how am I going to do that one?
I'll still be the speaker. Yeah, for sure. No, and I do appreciate it because it's so funny. Like God, sometimes you want things so bad and you want it for your vanity. And God knows, like, yeah, God, I want to help people. But the reality is that I always ask God for a stage. Like, God, I have so much information to share, right? And we're still getting to know each other.
Yeah.
But I have so much information to share, and I think I can really help people. And then it wasn't until it was almost like I removed that part of me where it's finally like, hey, now here's a stage. Now here's podcast. Like I went to a mastermind, and now they put me on real estate podcasts. And it was like, it's funny, when I was trying really hard to like somebody to give me a platform, nobody would give me one. And then I said, you know what? I don't need that. I just need Christ, and I need to serve Christ, and I need to love Christ, and that's it. Yeah. And then everything's like, hey, you want to speak on my podcast? Hey, you want to speak on my mastermind? And it's like, oh God, that's.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. And so now that you're doing your podcast, you've been in all these years, you're seeing what more people asking you to come and be on their thing too?
Well, I think it's, I think what it is, it's like, it's almost like I've always been intrigued with like if you remember those movies of Bloodsport, right? So like that always caught me, because for me it was always like that curiosity of like, man, there's somebody out there that's the best in the world at something, and we don't know where they're like, we've never even heard of them. Oh, like the
Van Damme, right? It's Van
Damme, yeah,
yes.
like Van Damme, right? So there's like a bunch of little people, but a better example is there's a guy who started going viral recently. And I don't know, maybe even Ben might have. Ben's the producer here, so if you guys are looking, I'm talking to Ben. Have you seen that video of he's a guy from India, and he's like one of the fastest people in the world, but he trains running next. It's a guy, and he went viral because the way he trains is there's no trainers, there's no professional, nothing. Yeah. But he's used to training. He pulls tires with the rope that his dad ties.
Wow.
Or he'll like race actual big rigs on the highway.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I think I've actually seen that guy running against a car or a truck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now he's like he's going to the Olympics or something, right? So it's like, and the reason I bring that up is because it's like there's somebody out there that's the best at something that we don't know who it is, and God's almost like preparing them for like something. And I kind of felt that that's what was me. It was like God has, a lot of people's like, oh, the highway's under construction, but nobody ever looks at us as like, I'm under construction.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yes, yeah.
So now it's like, okay, now that I've been under construction for so long, and I have all this wealth of knowledge, and when I share it with people that have some platforms, now they say like, hey, here, can you share it on that?
I like that because interesting is my my mastermind is really about taking people in all the 7 key areas of life: faith, family, fun, fitness, firm, finance, and friendship.
Right.
And everybody's always trying to be better at something. They want to be better, do better as a husband, do better in their job or their business or whatever it is, you name it. They want to make it better. They want to go from here, wherever they're at, wherever their starting point is, and they want to go to a better place over there, right? And so I love that Christ Built Life, because it really is, I think it's the core of everything, the business and everything that we do. Is Christ first, and then that empowers us and infuses us with the capacity to strive forward and thrive in all those areas.
Yeah, and I think that there's a huge gap in that. And like I told you, I said, Christ Built Life was a vision that I had that was, everybody wants to, I don't know if it's so much that they want to get better at it, but everybody just wants to feel like they're contributing to a bigger game, right? Yeah, so we were having a conversation with Isaiah the other day, or just what was it, like a couple of days ago? But then obviously right here, hey, watch out! It's funny. It's falling. Oh, it's all good. Don't worry about it.
Our production crew causing damage.
Yeah, it's all good. But we were having a conversation with Isaiah, and he was saying, like, I just want to help. I just want to help. And I said, if you can sum it up in one word, you just want to be able to contribute. But some people are so big, they have so much to share, that even the game they're playing and the level of contribution they're playing doesn't give them the satisfaction of actually feeling like they're making the difference.
Yeah, makes sense.
So Christ Built Life, that's, to me, that's the ultimate. That's the ultimate of everything.
Okay.
Because what better purpose to have than a purpose you're probably never going to fulfill.
Yeah. How long did you start that, by the way?
December 31st, 2023.
Oh, okay. So really new.
Yeah. I told you when we went to Aspire, that's what gave me the idea.
Oh, yeah.
And that was what, December 4th?
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's right. Because you came running out. I got the name.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah. So it's been what, less than 2 months?
That's
going
great.
on about 2 months.
Yeah. And you already got quite a bit of people subscribing and listening. That's good.
We've been blessed. We're almost at 4,000 subscribers.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. In 2 months.
Yeah, I think that when you look, I was a pastor for many years, and so you see people going to churches, and a lot of the churches, because a lot of Christians generally will only attend that first service, right? That Sunday morning service. But then that's more meant for just a basic teaching, just to give you something, maybe a bone to live on for that week, right? But then to go deeper, you have to dive in your life, in different aspects of your spiritual life, whether it's going deeper with the Word of God, or going more into worship, or practicing some traditions like fasting or things like that,
right.
Things that get you going deeper to help pull those things out of you that the bad things, take them out and put more good things in so you can grow.
Yeah. So you said something earlier, Alan, that was pretty captivating for me, because I'm visual. When people say words, I see things, right? And you said, like, people go to church on Sunday and then they stop right there, and they just go deeper into the context of living life and what's spiritual and the Word and learning about that, and then all the other areas are also neglected.
Yes.
And that was such a visual learning for me, because you see a lot of people getting saved. You showed me that video of, like, I don't know how many people got saved in Nigeria.
3,600,000 in one night.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, but then the question begs is, like, when you're showing me that video, it's just like, well, that's awesome, and it brings you to tears, and it's very emotional. But then it's like, then what?
Yeah.
Then they go back to a corrupt government, then they go back to, like, wherever they live in their situation. So where do they go from getting saved to now? It's like, okay, now let's really build you a foundation.
Yeah.
In every area of your life.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be the big problem. After doing years of counseling and marital counseling for others, you see that there's so many missing components in their life. And they, because of taxes, which causes us to have dual incomes and have to work like mad, and a variety of other things, we're having a hard time sustaining ourselves and our families. And have enough time at home. And we're just like running to work and then running home to spend time with our family. And then it seems like we're running to get our kids to bed, and then off to sleep and start over again. And we're not taking the time to really hone in on our life in a deeper level.
So they call that the rat race, right?
Yeah.
So go into a little bit more on, like, some examples of what, because you did marriage counseling, right, for many years. So does anyone stand out specifically that where you were just like, maybe then you didn't have the wisdom you have now, but who stands out from, like, this person could have really needed help in these areas of life?
Oh man, so many. I mean, I've dealt with a young couple that's just newly married and they're struggling financially. They haven't, they're new in their careers. They're barely making anything, and then they add a child on the way, and they got to start preparing for that.
Right.
And then they're just struggling to try to make money. And at the same time, one of the biggest key areas, I always talk about it, the 3 key areas that cause most of the problems within marriage are a lack of the ability to connect intimately. And that has to do with 3 key areas: spiritually, physically, and emotionally.
So hold on. So you mentioned 3, but then you broke down that 3 into or that 1 into other 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So go through that one again.
Yeah. So intimacy. So connecting physically, spiritually, and emotionally. A lot of dudes just flat out don't honestly know how to do it physically. If they did, their wives would be chasing them. They wouldn't be chasing their wife. You know what I mean? Because they're horrible at what they do.
I've never heard a pastor say that.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
That's why I'm taking that outside of the pastoral context of
I've
church
never heard
world.
a pastor say that.
We're going to go deep on those areas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then emotionally, right? Sometimes, generally, women are better connectors emotionally.
Right.
And what they do sometimes is they tell their husband that they're horrible at connecting without teaching them how to connect. Since they're better at it, show them how, demonstrate it,
Right.
and then invite them in, then love on them, and encourage the things they do correctly instead of attacking the things they do wrong and then making them feel bad. Then he doesn't want to connect emotionally. He just comes home, gets his meal, watches TV. She complains that he's always just watching TV and not paying attention to her, and it just begins a cycle. But learning how to connect emotionally, and there's great value in a dude connecting emotionally. And so we got the physical, the emotional, and then the spiritual.
Yeah,
that's at the core.
Yeah, I've never. How do you create intimacy and spirituality? That's
Okay, so check this out. I know this is a little bit, it's going to sound
fine.
sacrilegious.
It's fine, yeah,
So
whatever.
I was in Bible college, and while I was there, my buddy's like, dude, I'm getting married in a few months. I can't wait, bro. I'm going to put on the worship music, and I'm going to make sweet love to my wife. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I mean, you see movies, and like, you got to have the jazz. You got to have the right music. I go, worship, that's sacrilegious. It's like, no, God made sex, and he made it for you to enjoy.
Right.
God is happy when you're doing that within the context of a beautiful marriage, right? That he designed. And the problem is people don't know how to make it fun and exciting within marriage. You know what I mean? They get bored because for whatever reason, they're not working hard enough at it. Oh, wow. Isn't that interesting? You kind of have to work at some of the things to make them better. You want to get muscles? You're not going to do it sitting on a couch. You know what? You want a good sex life? Work at it. And guess what, dude? You should be all in it, working at it. But now you got to get your wife to work at it. Ring her bell. She'll come running after you.
Ooh, dang. Yeah, you guys ain't getting this anywhere else. So I want to bring up something that you actually said this to me, and I never thought about it. And it was like such a big opening of inquiry, right? And you said regarding spirituality and intimacy, and you said that most a big reason, and I can relate to this personally because I wasn't always the spiritual leader of my house, right? Yeah. But something happened the moment I decided that I wanted to be the spiritual leader in my house, and then my wife desiring me. I never put those two together. I just thought like, hey, I'm a better leader. She likes me better, whatever. Yeah. But you also said, then you, like, this happened months before you told me this, and you said the reason, or something like this, you can elaborate on it, but the reason most women don't desire their husbands is because they're not the spiritual leader. Yep. And I was like, whoa, like that blew my mind. So I want you to elaborate on that a little more.
Sure. In all the years that I've done counseling, there are a variety of different women. There's alpha females, those are the strong ones, right? They can be overbearing. There's the soft ones. There's the ones who are creative. There's the ones that go through all kinds of emotional struggles. There's a whole wide array of different type of women, just like there are men. But even at the top level, I wouldn't say top level, I don't mean it that way. I mean at the alpha female who tends to dominate the scenario, she really, at the end of the day, she still wants to be protected. She still wants to be secure with her man. She still wants intimate connection. You got to learn how to use her driven personality as a part of your arsenal of family power and strength. You know what I mean? And so that's when you have a woman like that, she's a high profile woman, and you're going to have to, you have to stay at the top of your game. But they really do also want a man that leads ways spiritually. In other words, he's the one who's, hey, guys, let's go to church. You know what I mean? So she's not always, come on, get up, kids, let's go to church. You know what I mean? When you start taking charge of those kinds of things, she's not going to balk against that because she already wants to do that. You know? And when you start doing it, she wants to get into her femininity because she wants to show you her femininity because she may be a powerful woman, but she also has a feminine side that is beautiful and she wants to unleash that on you. So rise up, step up into who you're supposed to be, and she's going to show you her feminine side and she's going to blow you away.
So it's almost like it's almost like a counterculture, right? Because men are being feminized, right? And then the women are being, put more
making up the slack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in that, their desire is still to like, hey, pick up the slack, you chump, right? Pretty much. So a dominant woman almost needs a dominant man, but not dominance in the context of what we men or society might see men as, but dominant in like the spiritual dominance where a man could still be, I don't want to say docile, but he can be the spiritual leader. And that's really what the dominant woman is looking for.
See, the toxic masculinity that the crowd of a lot of the world is talking about is they're really taking men who are really mean and abuse their women, and they're taking that and they're applying that sometimes to all men. And that's not what masculinity is about. Masculinity is beautiful because it protects, it guides, it directs, it listens. See, the thing about that we know in the Bible in Ephesians, when it says, a woman needs to come up under her husband, well, a man needs to be willing to die for her. Like, protects her, puts her behind him, and he protects her because that is his prized, cherished, beautiful queen, right? And he's going to do everything. He's going to give his very life for her. But at the same time, they both have a responsibility to build that. Men want a feminine woman, and women, even when they're alpha female, they do want that masculine man. But the masculine man that genuinely looks after her purpose, her passions, her desires, and loves her almost to the edge of, when I talk about marriage and I talk about love, you see that God put a Song of Solomon in there. It's about a husband and a wife really talking about breasts and even sexual things. And it's interesting because you're like, wow, I don't think I want my kid to read that.
But the Bible's talking about
Song of Solomon. Yeah, basically, kind of, yeah. But it's really about that enjoying it, that in God's creation, and then knowing that you can go deeper in that area and have a phenomenal life in that area. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's almost like today's society, toxic masculinity, it's almost like we need to remove the masculinity so that we can get to what we really want to get to, which is the prized possession of, obviously, Satan was to make Eve. So if I wonder this. I wonder if like maybe somewhere in that situation of like the serpent convincing Eve that you can eat of this tree, I wonder if there was some sort of like, maybe like, oh, you don't need to be strong, you don't need to be protected. I wonder if there was kind of a situation went down like that.
It is interesting when you do dive into the Hebrew on that. It's interesting because when it says that her desire is going to be for her husband, that same word desire, it's only used one other time in the Hebrew language, and it's when temptation desires to overtake you, and it has to do with the context of in a negative way that it wants to subdue you under it. And I think maybe in a bad way, maybe some women might want to be that way. There's a toxic masculinity in some women, actually. But let's remove the toxic part and let's get to the beauty of masculinity and the beauty of femininity, because there's going to be women with a certain degree of masculinity, and that's fine. That's great. Those are usually the powerhouse CEOs. You par them up with a powerhouse masculine man, and they're going to take over the world. You know what I mean? And if they can build their emotional strength and spiritual, they're going to be just, unleash them on the world. They're going to be crazy awesome. Right. Sometimes you usually have someone who backs off a little bit, but I think they're both beautiful, and I think that the world is doing a disservice by attacking feminine women and attacking masculine men. When if you ask any woman if they want a man that takes care of them, yes, would you like a man? And someone will say, yeah, I'm okay if we're making same, or I can make more money. That's not a big deal. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how alpha female she is. If there's a guy who comes over there and starts to attack them on the streets, she wants her man to be able to take care of that situation, no matter what. Usually, when you ask a woman, do you want a man smaller than you or bigger than you? Bigger. I want him stronger. If you ask him, would you prefer him to make more money? Most of them are going to say yes.
Right.
I mean, so there's this innate desire inside for them to have a man who cares for them in a proper, loving, caring way that they would want to submit, not forced, not have to, but want to, in a sense, say, okay, I'm going to unleash my femininity on you. And when she unleashes her femininity and you open the door for that, dude, your world's going to be freaking rocked. Emotionally, spiritually, and physically.
And intimately.
Yeah, intimately.
Yeah, intimately. So I want to dive into the kind of going back to the other two, because you said marriages fail because of 3 reasons. So we kind of really dove into like the intimate part of it. What about the other 2?
Yeah, so in communication, and that is one of the open gates to emotions, but it's not necessarily emotions. One of the things I always have a husband and wife practice, sit in front of each other. You could do it both clothed and unclothed in the bed, right? And just look in each other's eyes and don't say a word. Just look at each other. Look at each other. Look at their face. Look at their body. Look at each other. That's a form of communication, because what you're expressing on your face. But when it comes to the basic form of communication I'm talking about words. So those communication in words, how you say things, what you say. We both come from different backgrounds. So a phrase your family might say is different than hers, and it has different meaning and different levels of value. And so you have to navigate those, and giving the person the opportunity to say things like, you know what, I didn't mean it that way. Can I further explain? No, but you said this. I understand that that's the words I used, but let me say what's coming out of my heart, and just trust that my explanation is what I mean, and keep fine-tuning it. But communication is key, and being able to work on it without attacking each other, and just saying something to the effect of, what did you mean by that? God, I think I might be taking this wrong. Can you further dive into that? Instead of just, you said this. You know what I mean? And so that takes work, and most people don't want to do work. Why do you think that most people that sign up for the gym in December never go back after February? Because most people don't want to put in the hard work.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. And really, everything in life is going to be some form of work that you have to put into it, especially when it comes to the interconnectivity of 2 human beings, whether it's male or female or 2 best friends or whatever, right? You still have to work on it.
So that's had a thought about this. So my wife and I, we were going on, let's see, we got married in 2010, so we're going 14 years, right? And it took me 10 years of marriage just to learn how to communicate with her.
So you were the slow one.
What's that?
You were the slow one then? Just kidding.
I think I was...
Sometimes the guy's slower.
I think I was a slow one and she was a stubborn one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right, but it's funny because it's like, if you ask her, she's like, he's the stubborn one, right?
Oh, okay.
So, gotcha. but yeah, and then it was like, and then I don't remember, we had a huge argument, and my internal thing is like, people are going to leave me, but it's okay because it doesn't matter. Yeah. So in my head, it's always like, hey, it's a revolving door of people. People come in, people come out. And I related to her like that, So all of my, so one relationship, and it stems from like, I always grew up with friends. Either I moved away or they moved away. Yeah. Right. So for me, it was like, why even make a friendship? People just come in and out of your life. So in marriage, you like you were talking about your past, the way that you relate to things, whereas the way that she relates to things is she doesn't want to let go. Right. So it's almost like a perfect blend of like, hey, there's a door, and she's like, I ain't going anywhere. Right. Yeah. So luckily we married into that with each other, our pasts. And then really our past, it took 10 years for our past to actually, to start clearing up. And then I finally realized she's not going anywhere. Yeah. Right. So you better learn how to communicate with her. Yeah. And it was so funny because the same arguments that we had, like now they're just not there because we're learning to communicate with each other. And what's there for me is like, I feel bad because most people don't ever give themselves that chance.
You want to know what's funny? Wait till you've been married like me, 32 years, and we're older, and we'll be arguing about something for an hour, and I'll go, wait a minute, can you tell me what we're arguing about? And she's like, oh, wait, I forgot. And then we just laugh and go out to get some coffee. We totally forgot what we were arguing about. It phases, man. So the phases are basically this. Within the first 5 years or so, that's when most divorces happen. Somewhere in the 5, 6, 7 year, because there's always a battle of the wills. Someone is trying to exert their dominance over the other or get their way over the other. Eventually, when you hit the 10-year marker, one of the other or both of them just kind of give up on trying to dominate. And then something happens, and then they're like, wow, my marriage just all of a sudden shifted. And if you can get to the 10-year marker, then that's when you can actually begin to really build life into it.
Right.
And then I remember then going to the 15-year stage, and like, okay, this is good. We got a rhythm. We know each other. You know, we know what we expect. But dude, you haven't even hit nothing yet. Wait till you hit the 20 marker, the 25-year marker, the 30-year marker. It totally changes now. Dude, and when I learned how to do the physical, I mean, I probably shouldn't say this on a podcast. I don't chase my wife, dude. She chases me.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you know that's real because he's saying it and she's probably going to watch this. So.
There's this television movie I watched when I was a kid, and it's from the 80s with John Cusack. It's called A Sure Thing. It's actually pretty clean. You know, I'm not going to tell you the whole thing about it. You should check it out. I think you can get it on YouTube for free. But it's anyways, so he's having this dream and he's being romanced by this woman, and, you know, they're going to bed and all that kind of stuff. He's like, oh, too much, not enough. And he's sitting on an inner tube in the swimming pool. He's like, not again, not again. And I'm like, sometimes I feel like that, not again. You know what I mean?
Guys, so men, if you're watching this and you want that, hit up Alan.
Oh, man.
Hit up Alan and join his private, you got a private group, right?
I'm going to start one now. We're going to get that going.
Yeah, so that's huge. How many men wouldn't?
Oh, they would.
That's like the holy grail.
I've wanted to start that. I want to do a thing for men like ASAP where they could talk freely and we can get some great advice, and I can actually teach them on this stuff. You know, I'm looking forward to the time when my kids are engaged. I'm going to sit my son down, and we've never talked about that. You know, I'm going to sit him down and talk about what he needs to do and how to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's awesome. That's a conversation that, most parents avoid. It's pretty cool that you actually want to have it with your...
Because it took me so many years. My family was so broken up. I didn't know what I was really doing. I mean, you know, we got married, we're sleeping together and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, you're trying to figure it out, but you're still also embarrassed. You don't really talk about it.
Right.
You know, it's like get on, get off. You don't talk. And it's like, you know, and that's it. And she's not satisfied, so she's not chasing you down, you know? And so there's just so many elements in there.
Wow. So I have a feeling that if this gets out to women, they're going to be like, telling her, you watch this, you call Ellen.
I'm just going to do my marketing to all the women so they can make them pay to come in, all the men.
Exactly. They're gonna make all their men Christ-built life.
Exactly.
So I want to bring it. I want to bring it back to the finances, because you said earlier, you said you got to work at it, right? Mm-hmm. And you have to work at it, like put it under anything, right? So in the church, and it's kind of you don't talk about this subject, which is finances, right? But it's funny that you have to work at it if you want a good marriage. You have to work at it if you want good communication. You have to work at it in the context of intimacy, or you have to work at it in the context of your body. Yeah. But why is it that when you bring up money or business, then we don't work at that?
And you know what's crazy is, like, for this cup, it takes money to buy it. For the cell phone, it takes money. For the microphone, for your hat, for my clothes, for the glasses, you know, we need to pay rent. We have to put our kids in school. We buy them shoes. We go get groceries. Everything in our life is centered around money. And yet most people who need money have not read one book on money. Yet it's the one thing they need the most that's going to relieve the most amount of pressure on their life. How many men are going out there and beating down the doors and working like mad, and women too, just trying to produce income, and they still feel the weight of, they got mortgage payment and rent payment, and they got these bills, and my wife's asking me for more money, or he's asking me for more money, and my kids want money for what? You want to go out to pizza? You want to do this? And it's just this weight, and we're overtaxed by, you know, the world system, and, you know, inflation, and everything's going up, and we're just feeling like buried under here. And how do we get out of that? And then you go to the church, like I did in many cases, and I'm trying to help people in a counseling situation, but, you know, it's taboo to talk about money. And I think we talked about this. I said, you know, you can go to the church and you can go, and if you came up to me and you said to me, hey man, this year I'm going to join the gym. I just want to get more fit in my life. And, you know, the average church girl would be a good job. Good for you, man. That's awesome. You should do that. And then if you came to me and it was a different person now, and you said, man, this year I'm a little overweight. I want to eat healthy and I just want to get better. I'm going to start changing my diet. I'll be like, good for you, man. That's great. Another person comes up and goes, hey, you know what? I'm really thinking I'm going to go out there. I'm going to really hustle. I'm going to go out and make some money. I'm going to start a business. Oh, money's not everything. And it's like, why do we put it in that negative context?
Right.
You know, money's an inanimate object. It's neither evil nor nor good. It's neither. It's whatever you use it for. It's the love of money. And so Proverbs says that when the righteous are rich, the community is blessed. Because what do righteous people do? They want to help. They want to help the homeless. They want to help the single mother. They want to help the widow. They want to give their money and help people. You know what I mean? That's what good people do. But then a lot of good people don't know how to make money, and there's literally piles of it everywhere.
Yeah, I heard somebody, I didn't see it. I heard somebody say that if money was really the root of all evil, I think the devil would come and dump a bunch of it in your front lawn.
Exactly. Exactly.
Which happens to some people, you know, that win the lottery or whatever. But and that's like a different that's a conversation for another day. But those are like people that didn't build the character to get it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I believe that God has no respect for persons. The laws apply to everyone. Exactly. Right. If you eat protein and you work out, you'll gain muscle. Exactly. You know, if you eat carbs and you don't work out, you'll gain fat. Yeah. Right. If you work hard in your business and you follow through, then you build a successful business, you'll make money. Exactly. If you follow the system as it's been taught by the system of going to school, getting good grades, college, all that, that's not going to work.
Yeah, right? I'd posted something on social media about, something about some positive stuff and, money. And one of the people in the congregation attacked me and said, oh, you can only make money if God makes you make money. You can't do that. Only God can make you make money. I go, well, let's apply that to that principle. Right. And then I don't need to go to the gym because going to the gym is not going to make me muscles, because if God wants me to have muscles, he's just going to make me have muscles. Same thing with education. Why go to college? God's just going to make me smart. It's only in God's hands. And then when you look at the parable of the talents, the master who represents Jesus gave one person 5, gave another person 2 talents, and gave another person 1. And the talent there in the Greek is money, not skill, not ability. Pastors who preach skill and ability are just side dodging the whole conversation. It's literally about money. And then the master took off. They couldn't even go to the master and go, hey, what do you want me to spend it on? What do you want me to invest it in? What do you want me to do with it? He let them be in charge. They had full authority to do whatever they want. Stick it in the bank, don't stick it in the bank, invest it, do what you want. The 2 who multiplied it was given more, and the one who did 0, nothing, he wasn't a good steward. The master took it away. Yeah,
and it's funny you say that, because I just literally had this conversation with somebody. And that's why I love your group so much, because they're the ones that are taking the talents in the form of wisdom, in the form of coaching, in the form of knowledge, and they're multiplying it. Yeah. And I didn't realize this until the other day, like literally 2 days ago. I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm like, you know what? At my old company, at the old office, when I was teaching people, I would get upset because I would give them the knowledge and they wouldn't do anything with it. And I was like, that's because I always wonder, like, why did they get so upset at the guy who did nothing? And it's like, well, Leo, you got upset when you're giving people wisdom and resources and they're not doing anything with it. And I was like, that makes sense now. Now that when it applies to me, it makes sense. Yeah. Right?
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. It's so, I wanted to bring that up because I remember that. I was like, oh, the talents. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. There's so many people who just don't want to hear about it. I run into people who don't want to work hard, and they usually end up with the theology that, oh, I can only be rich if God makes me rich, because they don't really want to do it. And, statistically, you can look at any statistic. I don't believe in them. They're not the gospel. You can find all kinds of statistics. But in general, about 80% of people really don't want to work hard. They would rather just, and it's proven in business, 20% do most of the work. The other 80% just kind of rely on the 20%, just kind of do their day to day. You know what I mean? They're not pushing. They're not driving. You know what I mean? That's why they don't get as far as the other people that are driving.
Yeah, and I used to kind of get upset at that, but then I realized that everybody's just under, the majority of the population are just under the big deception that we don't live in abundance, right? And I've been telling people this, but I think Bukele is the president of El Salvador, and he's got this thing going viral right now where he talks about really something that a lot of people have been wise to over the last couple of years. But he said, your taxes don't fund the government. He said, what funds the government is treasury bonds, and who the biggest buyer of treasury bonds is the Federal Reserve. So the government doesn't need your taxes to fund the government.
Interesting. Yeah.
So the Federal Reserve is the one that funds the government. They just tax you just because they want to, pretty much, is what I summarized. But if you guys go look it up. Yeah. And I was like, this is the most eloquent way of putting it that I have been trying to tell people, that we live in a system that is completely fabricated. We live in this matrix that doesn't exist, right? Yeah. But yet, so on one hand, the way that the system's designed is that we live in a complete basically banana republic, right? Where what we're taught, our taxes don't fund the government.
Yeah.
The government can fund itself through the Federal Reserve, but they're just using our taxes to pay that back, which we know with the deficit at 31 trillion, 36 trillion or whatever it is, that's never going to get paid back. So that's a joke, right?
Yeah.
So that's a complete joke. But yet for whatever reason, people are deceived to think that money is the root of all evil. It's like money is irrelevant. It's useless. It's printed by the government. And you're the one, excuse me to say, but all those people that think, oh, money's the root of all evil and all that, you're the ones that are giving more value to an object that is just being printed that's completely made up. See, and I think the deception is the same deception as in the Garden of Eden. You got to walk through abundance to get to the one thing you don't have. You have everything else. You have your health. You have your kids. You have your relationships. You have a free gift called salvation.
Oh, I love it.
And everything you have is free. It's abundant. But for whatever reason, your focus is on the one thing.
Isn't that crazy?
It's insane.
That's insane. You know, I think that God intended us for, honestly, to live a different life than we are now. Governments get involved. I mean, we weren't even supposed to have a king. We weren't supposed to have a president. That was given to us because, you know, the people of God were like, no, we want to be like everybody else. You know, and that's why we're part of a kingdom. You know, I may be an American and I do love America. You know, I'm going to vote. I'm going to do all that. But at the end of the day, my citizenship is somewhere else. I'm a part of a kingdom.
Right.
And this kingdom has many people from Brazil, from Mexico, from Romania, from the Ukraine, from Yugoslavia. Well, there's no more Yugoslavia. It dates me, right? From Russia. There are Christians everywhere, and we are a family. And so it transcends governments. You know what I mean? And so, and if we can plug into that family and we can build that family properly and build our life around that, we can see abundance like you're talking about. And we wouldn't have to work so much. I don't even think Adam and Eve were meant to work that much. They were in a garden. You know, they named some stuff and made love all day. You know what I mean? Wouldn't that be great? Think about this. This is most people don't know this. You read the book of Deuteronomy. I'm going to ask you, okay? Is it okay to put you on the spot?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so you might not know it. Obviously, I'm the theologian, so you might not know it. Okay, when a husband and wife get married, how long are they supposed to take together before they start work and jobs?
Ooh, I don't know.
1 year.
I was going to say 3 months, but
1 year.
Wow.
The dad of the daughter is
supposed to
supposed to
take care of
provide a
them.
dowry that provides enough for them to not work for one entire year.
I do remember
All
that
they
from
do
my
is
marriage.
make out, make love, and watch TV and eat food. You know what I mean? Work out if they want.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
That's awesome.
Because they're supposed to build that life. Yeah, our staff's like, whoa, I like this.
Yeah, these guys are
guys
young.
aren't married
They're
yet.
like, I could get on with that program.
These guys are young. They're like hormone with feet.
I'm gonna send this to Stephen, my father-in-law. So I'm gonna send him like, Stephen,
Where's that?
14 years late here.
Yeah, exactly. Can we have our year now? You know?
No, they're awesome people. They're
That'd
taking
be
good care of us.
You'll have like a couple more kids then.
Yeah, he wants his 20th.
Oh,
He
okay.
wants his 20th. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's at 19 grandkids.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, maybe one more.
Yeah, maybe one more. My wife's the youngest of all of them, so that's the one that's.
But
like,
she's starting her brand new career as a broker. You know, so she's I don't know.
You know what's crazy?
Challenging would that be?
You know what's insane is that I always fought for. I have 2 kids. We always fought for. I didn't not fought, but I always kind of lobbied. Let me just put. I lobbied for a third, and she was like, no. And I think that the brother Isaiah was talking about earlier is about a woman's afraid to get lost in her children, right? And they lose their identity in that. And my wife went through that, and I think that's why she never really wanted the third one. But now that she got her broker's license and she's like rocking it and doing this, and now she's like almost like she's found a new sense of identity. And now she's like, hey, how about we haven't fully talked about it, so I don't want to put my foot in my mouth. But now she's open to the conversation, and I'm like. That's interesting how that actually works with women.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You know, it's interesting because my wife got lost in that for a long time. And during COVID 2020, our last child moved out. They waited till they were like 25 practically. So we had kids in our house for a long time because I have 3.
Yeah.
And so, I'm probably more of that, no, don't go. You
right.
know what I mean?
She's like,
I was like, go. I'm tired of taking care of you, washing your clothes. You're 25 stinking years old. Get out.
Get out.
And my wife is funny because she felt that and she expressed that. Now, I didn't understand that when the first 10 years of marriage. She said things to me, but I didn't understand it. I was just working, trying to make money. I'm not listening, right? That's the emotional and the communication that I'm not giving her, and that causes problems, right? And then what's interesting is over time, because she's one of the alpha females. She's an alpha female, right? So she's a strong woman. a strong German woman, you know. She's funny because there's this meme out there where you watch, and like if you're married to a German person, doesn't matter if you're sleeping, they're in there vacuuming, cleaning the carpets, you know, they're taking their glasses right out of your hands and starting to wash them because it's almost out of there. That's my wife. It's spotless by 8 a.m. All the laundry's done. All the kids are off to school. Everything's taken care of. She has nothing to do for the rest of the day. While other women are taking like, I just had all day and I couldn't even get the laundry. My wife's like, I don't even comprehend those people. You know what I mean? She gets up at 5 a.m., gets it all done, boom, and you know, and then crazy. She's like a machine. But anyways, now that she's running our company in Hawaii, because we started one in Hawaii after COVID, we knew everybody was going to flood there for tourism. And she's analyzing her life because she gets to run that, and she's like the boss. I'm over there. I listen to her. You know what I mean? Right. She likes that. And then what happens is she now sees what it's like to be a business owner and to run a business. And she literally wants to do business with me now.
Yeah.
Whereas before she didn't. Like she wants us to be able to travel and own Airbnbs in different countries and buy homes and do all that. And she wants to do it with me. You know what I mean? Which is like full circle now because she was wanting her independence for a long time. And I just blew through over my head and out in one ear and out the other. I was just working nose to the grindstone trying to crank, right? You know, sometimes working 2-3 jobs because she stayed home.
Wow.
And so I was working like mad. But yeah, so interesting how they come full circle. And as you get older, you begin to pair more as one. I look at it like this. When you come together, you're like two streams, right? And when you first get married, boom, and when two streams hit, it's all wavy and crazy. And as time goes on, it just begins to smooth out and become one, as we are destined to be.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Wow,
But most
that's
people
a great
divorce
analogy.
before they do that.
Wow, that's a great analogy. Yeah, the two streams coming together is big. So you work 3 jobs. Is this when you were doing your pastorals? Like you were being
So one of them was pastoring, and then one of them was the budding construction company I'd started, and then I was trying to fix computers on the side. You know, just anything I can to make money. And then all of a sudden, the construction company went boom, and it took off, and I was doing huge projects, malls, apartment complex, hotels, things like that. And so I didn't have to do the computer stuff. But then it was making so much money, I was literally in that place where I was like, I'm a pastor. Am I allowed to make money? When people are writing me big checks, and I grappled with that. That's what brought me to this whole thing. My podcast and my mastermind, the power to gain wealth. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that we have the power to gain wealth. It's simply a decision we make. It's God's like, go for it. You know, just like if you want to gain muscles, go for it.
Yep, go for it. Do it.
You know, do it. I'm here with you. I'll go side by side. Take me with you. I want to do everything with you. Let's do this. But people are like, no, God, you do it for me. You know,
which is funny because you told me that the other day. I didn't know that. I see you now and I relate to you as like a hustler, go-getter, get stuff done. You got the right team in place. You got godly men on your corner. You got godly men that you're mentoring and inspiring. So I was just always like, yeah, like Alan's the guy, right? Like Alan is Christ-built life. Kids, marriage, finances, fun, friendships, everything, right? And then you said one thing to me, and you said, yeah, I wrestled with God when he told me to open up a business. Yeah. And I was like, that doesn't seem like you now.
Yeah.
Which is the opposite of me, because God is like, no, go more into preaching, like get away from business. Like God told me to get away from business, go into expanding my kingdom. Yeah. And I fought that. Yeah. And you fought the opposite.
Yeah.
So talk about that.
Yeah. So I was in pastoring a church. My wife and I had served as missionaries in Africa and Mexico, youth pastors in Southern Cal. And then we pastored a church. When I started the church from scratch, it was in a little coffee shop. I was like, oh, wow, you know, there's no money. What do I do?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I got to get a job, I think. My wife's like, honey, you need to get a job. I'm like, well, what do I do? You know, I had some things I could fall back on, but I didn't want to do those things. So I'm like, I'm looking in the Bible. Well, Jesus was a carpenter. I guess I'll go do that.
Wow.
I mean, I knew nothing about construction at the time. And as I'm doing it, I'm like, my prayer every day was like, God, I don't want to work outside of the church. I don't want to. I just want to be praying and counseling people and teaching and preaching. And the first, I would say, 10 years of doing my own business, and even now it was successful, and I was thinking, but I just want to be back here. I didn't know what God was doing. Sometimes you don't know what God is doing, and God will actually put you on a pathway for 10 years, and you don't even know the answer why yet. You're just there.
Yep.
Yeah, you're just there and you're trying to figure it out and you're constantly complaining and whining. And then you have to come to a place, okay, God, this is where I'm at. What are you trying to teach me? You'll get a lot further faster if you just turn and ask God that question.
Right.
And so what I realize is there is a huge deficit in the church world. And that's why I started our nonprofit that we have and these business entities and the mastermind. Most importantly, for anybody listening, the mastermind that you and I are doing. And that is, I want to level people up and fix all these areas, or at least give them intense, massive value. You know, I have all this massive value from studying and learning and growing, and I just want to lavish it on people and watch them grow and thrive, and then sit back and go, man, you go, man. I'm going to cheer them on as they cross the finish line. And I take more pleasure in seeing people succeed in life than, you know, me telling them, oh, you got to do this. You know, I'm not like that. I'm more like, I want to see you thrive.
Right. Yeah. I used to think that freedom was just I could do whatever I want. Yeah. And it's like, no, freedom, that's chaos. Yeah. Right. You get to do whatever you want. Eventually you're going to fall off the cliff.
Yeah.
Real freedom is like, here's your framework. You know, it's biblical framework, and you can do whatever you want. Yeah. You can paint whatever canvas you want, but you got to paint on the canvas. If you start painting off the canvas, you know, can't help you there. Yeah. I had another thought, and maybe it'll come back to me. But because I wanted to go back to your to how God moved in us in different ways, because I was lost in that, and I actually fought God. I was like, God, don't take my business away. What else am I going to go do? What? And I had to learn to sit there for 3 months in silence, as like I remember God didn't take away the business. Because of the economy and the way that things happen, we had to close down. We rented this warehouse. It was 11,000 square feet, and we converted it into a real estate office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like literally the biggest, like the biggest one anybody had ever seen. Yeah. And slowly but surely, and here's a tip for everyone is, you'll never know when you're prideful until you've been down that road long enough. And for me, it was like, oh, well, I'm not, if you were to ask me, no, I'm not prideful. But then, like, when you're removed of that situation and you're like, oh my gosh, what a prideful prick. Yeah. Right? Like, what a prideful prick I was being.
For me, I called myself an arrogant ass.
Arrogant ass, yeah. Prideful prick, arrogant ass. So it's like, man, like, like, I can see now why that was taken away. And then, but in that moment, there was a moment of reflection, like, am I even meant to do? Like, is this something? Yeah. And then you don't realize that you're not even happy in that. So it's like the things we ask for, like the things personally for me that I was asking for God, it's like, God, why are you doing this? Why I work so hard for this? And I'm serving people and I'm doing this, but it's not being reciprocated. Yeah. It's like casting your pearls before the swine. And God knew that I wasn't fulfilled, but I didn't know that I wasn't fulfilled. Yeah. That's like a different level of wisdom. Yeah. Whereas if you were the opposite, you were like, I don't want to do the work. I want to serve God. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So, I don't know how much time we have left, Alan, but I think that...
I think we got like 10 minutes or 5 minutes, he's saying. The producer's saying 5. We got 15 minutes,
15 minutes?
Yeah. They like us to do an hour. We got some good stuff there, definitely. You know, one of the things I appreciate about you, and I don't know how long it took you to get there, but it's this, is all the businesses we do are really, honestly, and I know people hear this and they probably hear that from other people, but there are a lot of shady business owners. There are a lot of people, they just want to rape you, take you for everything you got, and they get the best deal out of it and they walk, right? And we all want good deals. But when you and I talk, it's always about, how do we bring value to our client?
Right.
We want to take care of them. We want to see them thrive. It's more than just business. It is business. And we can't be taken advantage of. We need to take care of our own, right? Our staff, our family, and our stuff. But at the same time, we really do want to see people grow and thrive. It's very rare that you run into people who are genuine like that. I've worked with people who say that, but then don't act like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I love that about you. What brought that into you? Were you always like that, or is that just you recently come to that?
No, I've kind of always been like that. I think there's And I think that this is where, if more people went to third world countries and they saw how people lived, I think it'd make you much more grateful for what you have now.
Yes.
Right. So I can remember I was like 10 years old and my parents took me we would go to Mexico every year. Mm-hmm. Right. So I was born in Mexico, and I would go back every year once I got legalized. And I remember visiting this kid, and he was my brother's friend. Mm-hmm. He must have been 6 years old. I'm 4 years older than my brother. And we went to this kid's house. I remember he was 6, and his sisters were maybe like 8 or 9 younger than me, but older than them. And we walked into their place, and it was literally 4 walls of bricks, and one of those the roofing. I don't know what you call it, aluminum roofing that have the ridges. What's the proper name for that?
What is that? You got me in a mind blank.
I was like, you're the contractor. You probably know. Okay, just blurt it out. So that part of it is just on the corner, and the rest of it has no roof.
Yeah.
So I was like, and it's a dirt floor, just completely there's nothing there, and a toilet I think in the back. And I could remember thinking like, how do people live like this? Right? Like, so in that moment, there's a disconnect when you have expectations, right? So my expectations maybe in that moment were like, my parents didn't get me new shoes to go to Mexico. My parents didn't get me this to put in my suitcase to go. Like, so you have all these expectations of things you're missing, but then you get put in a position where you realize you have way more than you would ever need. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And in that moment, you replace expectation with gratitude.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So I live in that moment, and I try to live in between that every day. I try to live in between removing my expectation and gratitude and be hyper present to when an expectation creeps in. How can I shift it to gratitude? Right. Yeah, so if I can make a difference and be in gratitude and be contributing to people, I'm just planting seeds of abundance everywhere. But the moment that expectation sets in, it's like, oh, I don't have money to pay, my $15,000 office rent. Then in that moment, I'm going into greed and envy. Yeah. And when you replace gratitude and contribution with greed and envy, then you're planting bad seed in that moment.
Yeah. One of the key words that you use, I think about a lot, I've thought about a lot for the years, and that's expectation and managing expectations. People think they're owed something. I approach life, nobody owes me anything.
Right, exactly.
And, nobody. And because of that, I don't expect anything from anything or any government or any person or any people.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I approach life a lot more joy-filled because for me, I'm grateful for anything anybody does for me in any way, shape, or form. And I really learned that, honestly, when I was a missionary in a couple different countries, but the one that I was the longest, almost 5 years in Mexico. And, when I was out there living in a poor colonial, working in the poorest of the poor, my family built the first free private school in the nation of Mexico. And it's still there today on the dumps because there were parents that live on the dumps and all they do is glean metals from the dumps and try to make a few bucks a day. Yep. And their kids living in there. Their literal walls are crates that, forklifts pick up and lift up, and they put tarps over them. And I'm working with them. I'm going in those crates and having lunch with them. And the crazy thing is I noticed that in working in this one church in an area called Morita, right there in Tijuana, in this really poor area, and that was just starting off as a budding new colonial, and everybody had like garage doors for walls, and they're buying these little lots. The pipa truck comes by and has to put water in their big garbage can because they use that for showers and cooking.
Really?
Right? They don't even have running water. And when I was there I was leading worship in Spanish, and I had learned Spanish there. And when I was there, they would always whisk me into their homes and they would feed me food and always so full of joy. And I got to spend years with these people. And I noticed something. They don't know there's really all this other stuff out there.
Right.
And they're just enjoying life in the colonial. I found more life in that situation than living in anywhere I've ever lived in America. Right. Because people are connected. They're in community and they're doing things together and they care for each other. One time I came up to the church and I was going to be speaking, and all of a sudden there was some smoke coming out of my car. One of the guys comes over there, is like, telling me in Spanish, hey, levántate su, I forget what it is.
Cofre.
Yeah, cofre, yeah. And so I go, okay. So I pop it up and he's looking at it. He's like, you go, because I had to go do worship. He's like, you go. He freaking ripped my radiator out, went and got it fixed and put it back in while I was doing that. He's like, it's all done. I fixed it. He told me what he did. I'm like, mind blowing. I go, why did you do that? He's like, you're my family.
Yeah.
You're my family.
See, we
take care of each other. And I was like, there was nothing greater. And that was one of the main things that helped me through life as I began to come back here and pastor in the U.S., when you have all these people who have these high expectations of homes and private schools and all this kind of stuff. And my wife and I had that, but we were in the place of Apostle Paul. I'm content in all things.
Right.
We're just enjoying what we have. We're thankful when we can have that. And if it got taken away, we wouldn't be any less thankful.
Yep.
We would just be thankful to something else.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. And you say like the word contentment, and that's, I think, the one that was missing for me, because the moment I realized something was missing. So I went from that instance and saying, oh, wow, like there's this gratitude, but then it devolves, right? As you get older, you realize more things that are missing. Yeah. And this is why I said earlier that the people who are really deceived are the ones who actually talk about money's the root of all evil. You shouldn't focus on it. Yeah. Those are the real ones that are deceived, because the ones that are actually, it's nothing to them, then they don't ever talk about it. They don't know what's missing. So for me, I was part of the deceived part, right? And how that showed up in my life was, somebody took me to like a business meeting when I was 16 years old, and I learned that there was this whole other way of living that wasn't the way that I was taught. But the context of that, of how it was presented off of pride, and here's what's missing, and don't you want the private jets, and don't you want the Lamborghinis, and don't you want this? And essentially, it was a very small scale of what social media is today. Right? And social media, you have like, here's this array of stuff that's missing, and it confuses people. Right? And I told my wife the other day, I was like, you know what? I really think I found the definition of success. And I was like, what's the definition of success? When you wouldn't trade places with anyone else.
Yes. I love it. I love it. I remember when I was a kid and people would say, I would hear people say, you know what? If I had to do it all over again, I'd do it exactly the way. Maybe a few mistakes I wouldn't make, but everything else. And I was like, what? Because my parents were so chaos and druggies and all kinds of stuff. I was thinking I would trade everything. But now that I look back and I see who I become because of who my parents were and the struggles they did, I wouldn't trade anything. I'd do it all over again. You know, my parents died young, and so I would give just about everything in my life just to have another conversation with them. But luckily, not yet. But one day. I watched Gladiator last night. He's like, but not yet. Not yet. I will be there one day with my mom and my dad, and my brother I never got to meet because my wife my mom had an abortion, and I can't wait to see them. I can't wait to spend time with them and just hang out again. That is good.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. All right, well, we'll end on that note.
Awesome.
Man. Awesome, guys.
Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Subscribe to Alan's channel. This podcast will be on Christ Built and your Dare to Dream, right?
Yep. Power to Gain Wealth.
Power to Gain Wealth. Yep. Awesome, guys. Thank you guys for watching. If you made it through the whole thing, hope you gained some value out of it.